I'm a very methodical person by nature. I have an Excel sheet for every Excel sheet. I got tabs, I don't know if if you scroll enough, like it starts to get to double letters, the columns like AA and BB, like it just keeps on going. Like it doesn't stop you. It really should, because I'll analyze a deal until I die. But I put together, a Excel document, and I said, okay, this is what I think the value of the homes are on Zillow. This is what I think my proceeds could be. This is, all the economic figures to figure out exactly what I think I can get out of each individual property. Now, I'm very big on, networking and having a team of people behind me. Yes, this is 100% my money, but there's so many people around you that could help you to verify that you're thinking about it in the correct manner. So I spoke to a real estate agent, and I took out the Zillow estimates, and I said, what do you think these properties are worth? And I compared them, because Zillow's getting better and better, but it's still not the absolute best. So a real estate agent was able to provide me with some information. And then I went to Adam Eisman at JWB and said, what do you think these things are worth? And for somebody who's constantly in the market, constantly selling properties. And so I looked at all the three figures. I decided on what I think is ultimately I had to decide on what I think these things are worth. And then from there, I went shopping for mortgage brokers and interest rates and tried to shop around. So that was step two. I actually wound up settling on one of my friends who had recently got into being a mortgage broker, I know he was hungry to make a deal. So I thought maybe I could leverage it a little bit, I could kind of squeeze him a bit. And I wound up working with him. And, we worked on the refinancing over a period of about maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks to close. And I think I ended up with a really nice return. And yeah, so that's at a high level.
Adam, could we go a little bit more granular, just maybe on one of the properties? I think it would be great to show. I don't know if you have the numbers available, or we could probably ballpark it, but let's just go back. I know your portfolio generally, right? So let's go back to maybe 2010 or 2011 when you bought that first property. Probably bought it for what, maybe like $90,000 or somewhere around there. Is that generally speaking?
So I actually have the spreadsheet.
Oh, perfect.
I bought my first property was on Peter Rabbit Drive on the west side of Jacksonville.
West side of Jacksonville, right next to a property that we just featured on the property of the week last Thursday, right down the road from it. So a good example of why we stick to the same neighborhoods over and over and over again. Sorry, a little side note there. I got excited about it, but yeah. Proceed.
So I want to say I bought that originally for I want to say 86,000. I don't know why that number is sticking out to me.
Yeah.
And fast forward, almost 12 years later, I was estimating that particular property to be worth about, let me actually walk you through this. So Zillow told me it was worth 177.
Mm-hmm.
I had not mortgage broker, my real estate agent told me it was worth 165.
Mm-hmm.
And this was originally when I looked at refinancing in August of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of waited a little bit longer than I probably should have. By the time I was ready to refinance in the beginning of 2021, he had adjusted that to 175.
Mm-hmm.
So, he's kind of that was my target. Mm-hmm. My rate was 4 3/8. So
was that the original rate that you had for your
that's
first
original rate?
Okay.
Yep. And then I went to go shop it, and I could get that down a whole entire point.
Wow.
So to talk about how little it changed my overall mortgage, my old payment was $550 a month. Mm-hmm. My new payment was $563. It was a $13 change. Right.
And let's talk about the amount of money that you were able to pull out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just amazing that it's so close, by the way. So what are those numbers?
Right. So we did get it appraised, and it appraised at $170,000.
Wow.
I owed 55,000 on the property,
Mm-hmm.
and closing costs was just shy of $7,000, and the proceeds was $65,000.
So let's go through those numbers just for those who are just following along, right? When you refinance your property, you're able to get, I would imagine, 75% of the new value. Is that the amount that you were able to get, Adam?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you'd take 170 if we're following along here, right? 170 times, 170 times 0.75. That gets us to $127,500 of the new loan.
Yep.
And you take out your costs. And what were those costs?
$6,760.
Precise. All right. And was that on just that one property?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yep.
$6,700 ish.
Yep.
That gets us down to cash of about $120,800. And then you got to pay off the first loan. And what was that first loan balance?
55,000.
Minus 55,000.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the numbers that I have here, 65,800, that's about what you had there, right, Adam?
Exactly. Yep.
So, and just wrapping this whole thing up, you were able to take advantage of $65,800, which you could use to invest in an additional asset. But the payment that you made previously to borrow 55,000 was just about the same payment that you made to borrow 120,000. Is that right?
That's correct.
Man, how's that even possible? Like, I know the interest rate went down. I'm even surprised that it's even that close.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane, man.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, it was a no-brainer. But then what I did in order to compare one refinance to the next, I looked at what is the closing cost relative to the proceeds. And here it was just over 10%. I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was, that was okay. I used it as kind of a barometer across the board and that's how I determined of the 7 properties I was trying to refinance, which one was going to cost me more than others. And then I knew which ones to kind of go back to the mortgage broker with and figure out where I could kind of negotiate with them to get it, under 10%.
So that's a metric that I'm sure nobody on the call is paying attention to if they're considering a refinance. Talk to people about why this metric mattered to you.
Well, it's just the cost of gaining access to your capital, right? I mean, it's just that simple. I'm going to pay the way I work is I'm going to pay 10 cents on the dollar to get that equity. And we'll probably in the further along this conversation, we'll talk about, I didn't wind up refinancing all 7. Mm-hmm. One of them came in with a very low appraisal. And then when I looked at what the proceeds would be relative to the closing costs, which are relatively fixed for, within reason. There's a lot of fixed costs that are not variable, that don't go down really regardless of the value of the property. I was paying almost 25 cents on the dollar. Mm-hmm. Well, that's relative to 10 cents on the dollar. That's a real crappy deal. Mm-hmm. So I pulled that out, and I wound up only refinancing 6 of the 7. I think it's really important, especially if you have a portfolio of properties, not to look at it as a portfolio refinance. You're doing it all at once, but they're 7, 10, 20 different individual investments. You probably didn't acquire them all at the same time. So why would you, when you're refinancing them, not look at them as individual, investments, individual assets? So, every single refinance had to make sense on its own merits. And if it didn't, then it wasn't going to be refinanced.